Because of how my audition went, I entered my freshman year of college as a musical theater major, terrified to sing. But maybe that's a good thing. My family was very much a singing family. People usually say our family is musical, but that implies that some or most of them play instruments, and no. Musical instruments are expensive, lessons to learn how to play them are expensive, so that was a big ol' no way we can afford that in our family, but we were a singing family. Not only could most of us carry a tune, but also we did, frequently, everywhere, sometimes annoyingly. I recall walking through a Walmart with two of my sisters on a Sunday afternoon, singing a song that we'd just learned at church out loud, just because we liked it so much. How annoying. Singing was not just reserved for the shower at home. My mom would wake us up singing, "Good morning, good morning." We watched a lot of old musicals. One time a friend of my younger sister's was over and she turned to me with genuine confusion and asked, "Why do you keep singing?" I didn't really know how to answer because, first of all, I hadn't realized that I was singing, and second of all, I thought everyone just randomly burst into song while emptying the dishwasher. Were we good singers? Bit of a mixed bag when it comes to reviews. Generally speaking, my older sisters were established as good singers, like they got to perform solos at church, and that was the pinnacle of achievement to my young brain. Me personally, it felt a little more flippy-floppy. I'd be belting out Part of Your World in my bedroom only for my brother to demand that I stop caterwauling because his ears are bleeding. But then a guest speaker at church specifically pointed to my sister and I, who he'd been sitting in front of during the worship section, and said we sounded like angels, so I'm realizing how many of my childhood memories revolve around church. I was homeschooled, y'all. Church was pretty much the only time I interacted with other human beings. Little bird. Hello, bird. In junior high, a friend took me to see the Lion King musical on tour, and I was just overwhelmingly swept away by the world of theater, particularly musical theater. I loved the spectacle, the dancing, the giant set pieces, the elaborate costumes, and the music. To this day, musical theater music, show tunes, just, whoo, they hit different, especially the ballads. I was always drawn to the sad songs, the love songs, the I want songs. Ooh, the I want songs. There's a combination of storytelling and emotion and showing off of vocal abilities that is just not present all at once in any other genre of music, in my opinion. Anyway, I started saving money every year so that I could go see even more musicals at the Dallas Music Hall, and in 10th grade, our family toured some colleges for my older brother, and for the first time, I looked through a thick booklet of college degrees and realized that you could get a diploma in singing and dancing. So that was most definitely what I was gonna be doing. Yes, please, thank you. Now, I didn't come to my audition at this university thinking that I was the bomb diggity. I was a practical kid, and I had been faced with many moments of practicality throughout high school. I was able to do some musical theater summer camp kind of things where I was next to kids who had noticeably more talent and training than I did. My mom allowed me to audition for a community theater production of Cats, and I was not given a part, not even in the ensemble, despite having danced for like 12 years at that point. We somehow did a semester of choir. I guess it was a homeschool choir. And I realized that sheet music and harmonies were both foreign concepts to me. I didn't even know what sight reading was, but I still basically thought that I was a pretty decent singer, just lacking in training, right? I just needed to be molded. So in preparation for my big college audition, where I would need to perform two 32-bar cuts from a classic song and a contemporary song, as well as perform a monologue, I hired a vocal coach and an acting coach, just for 3 one-hour sessions each, because this expense was totally on me and my part-time minimum wage high school job was, well, it paid minimum wage. Not to talk this vocal coach, but also it doesn't matter because no one knows who she is. She wasn't very good in retrospect. Mainly because I think she wasn't very honest with me, which I can understand. You have 3 hours over the course of 3 weeks with this random kid to get them prepped for an audition the likes of which they've never done before. And maybe honesty isn't the priority. But also, what was up with our song selection? I did not know at the time, because I had zero connections to anything, that being a musical theater major does not mean that you only train in musical theater songs. I did not know that when they said classic song, they meant more like Italian aria rather than selection from Fiddler on the Roof. Guess which one we went with? Far from the home I love. And then contemporary, well, whip out the Wicked, kids. Yeah, no, I'm serious. I chose a 32-bar selection from The Wizard and I. The Wizard and I, with no training or experience. So the day arrives, I've had 3 hours of professional prep and a whole lot of singing in the shower, and now we're here. My parents have driven me the 3.5 hours to the university of my choosing, where I am supposed to audition for the chair of the vocal department in order to be accepted as a musical theater major. Fun fact, you did not have to audition to be a straight theater major, and no one from the theater department attended my audition. It didn't start out well. Like, we're not even talking audition yet. Pre-audition, things were already going downhill. My parents dropped me off because I'm not a baby, I can do this myself, and I followed the directions that I had to the music building. It's like March right now, by the way. College is in session. Senior in high school me is wandering around campus with the big kids, and for now, I'm feeling super good about it. So grown up. I get inside the building and there's this little office on my left where I've been told to check in with the administrator who will take me to my audition room. Because at this point, I did not know who I was auditioning for. Like, they hadn't given me a name. They just said check in at the office. Little hitch in the get along. The office was closed and locked and there was no one in it. Now, of course, I was a half hour early for my audition because, well, I have always been me. So I parked myself on a bench outside the office, stress levels rising by the second, feeling much less grown up now and more like I was wearing a giant sign that said, I don't know what I'm doing. I kind of wished that I was wearing that sign though, because I just wanted someone to help me. And this is saying a lot about how serious the situation was to me because, I spoke to a college student. Gasp. I chose a nice-looking passerby and asked her if she knew when the person in the office was coming back, or where they were, or where I should go, or who I was auditioning for. She didn't. She was very sorry, but she did not know any of those answers. In lieu of the information that I needed, though, she offered to take me to the practice rooms where I could warm up for my audition, which at this point was like 20 minutes away. You know, it was like 5 years after I graduated from this college that I randomly remembered who this girl was who helped me, or at least I'm pretty sure. And she would have been a freshman at the time, but it was another musical theater student who I spent the next 3 years doing shows with and going to classes with. But at the time, her face did not register in my brain because those stress levels were rising. I had never been to practice rooms before. I thought maybe they would be soundproof, or private, or far apart from each other. They were none of those things. There were 4 little closet-sized rooms with pianos in them, crowded together in a corner of the 3rd floor. Each one had a smallish glass window on the door so that you could see if they were in use, and yeah, you could absolutely hear everyone practicing all at the same time. Cue the Italian arias. The girl drops me in one of these and goes on her way. She's got class. And I did my best to sing through my songs in this tiny room where, unbeknownst to high school senior me, I'd be spending a lot of my time in the next 4 years. I never got over the fact that everyone passing by could hear you practicing. 5 minutes before my official audition time, I made my way back downstairs to the office, telling myself it was fine. I was still early. This is all fine. There was still no one there. One thing I'm pretty decent at in situations where I've done all I can and it's just sort of out of my control is holding all of my panic on the inside. It's not that I don't panic. I had just become really good at looking totally fine on the outside. My audition time comes and goes. I think it was supposed to be 12:30. You may be thinking, lunchtime. Yeah, they scheduled my audition for the middle of lunchtime and then didn't tell anyone to expect me except for the guy that I was auditioning for, whose name they hadn't told me. Come on, y'all. Help a floundering high school student out. 10-15 minutes after my audition time had passed, the office administrator finally comes back and she's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Hey, I'm the kid you were supposed to guide to their audition 15 minutes ago. So lovely to meet you. She takes me upstairs to an office that I had literally walked by on my way to the practice rooms, and there's the chair of the vocal department who I was supposed to audition for. He was nice about it. Honestly, he was really nice about it. But there was another audition happening at 12:45, and this kid had somehow received way more information than me because he was parked on the bench outside the proper office. So Mr. Chair of the department is like, how about I go ahead and take him because, you know, it is his proper audition time and then we'll do you next. Do you want to go to the practice rooms while you wait? No, I would not. I'd rather sit here outside the office stewing in my humiliation and listening to some other kids sing an Italian aria, cause yeah, he'd also somehow obtained the information that they didn't want 2 musical theater songs from you just cause you were auditioning for the musical theater department. At last, 'twas my audition time. Obviously, I'm in a great place, mentally speaking, for this very important moment in my young life. I sang my selection from The Wizard and I. Mr. Chair listened. I announced my selection from The Fiddler on the Roof. Mr. Chair said, "Oh, something a bit more classic." I performed my monologue, a piece from a play that I genuinely cannot remember what it was called, but it was a woman talking about her experience with an alien encounter. Both Mr. Chair and the pianist who had finished accompanying me looked lightly surprised. And then we sit down to have a chat about how that went. Immediate feedback. I'm going to find out right now both if I'm accepted to the musical theater department at all and if I'm getting a scholarship that I very desperately needed because I could not actually afford to go to this college. In the 15 years that have passed since this moment, I've lost track of his exact phrasing, but what he said to me was something very like, "There's not much to your voice, but since you've never had any training, we'll let you into the program, and sophomore year, you'll do a recital where we'll assess if you've made enough progress and can continue." He didn't say you're bad at singing, but it was very heavily implied, and I was crushed. He did follow that up by saying that he was very impressed with my monologue, which made me feel a little bit better, but even at the time, I was very aware that he was not from the drama department, and I was kind of like, are you just impressed with my monologue because it was a little bit out of the box for a high school student auditioning for a Baptist college? I wasn't really in the mood to feel better about myself right then, but that tiny bit of praise did come to mean a lot more to me in the following years. And finally, he looked at my grades, both from high school and from all of those tests that you take pre-college in this country, was even more impressed and slapped a decent scholarship on top of my wary acceptance, which really astounded me because I genuinely thought that the scholarships were going to be based on vocal talent, not on my ability to make A's on a test. But hey, who am I to question their methods? I needed the money. Ooh, we are running into a quagmire here. After what had been an exceptionally harrowing hour of my young life, I got back in the car with my parents and announced that I had been accepted with a scholarship, and they congratulated me. "Good for you, we're so happy for you. Why do you look so dejected?" I did not feel good about this. Yes, I'd achieved what I set out to achieve, which was a good thing because I did not have any backup schools. This was my only option. But there was a lot going on inside. I was confused and I felt almost pitied. Like I did not understand why he had said, "You're not very good," and then accepted me anyway. I also felt very exposed and embarrassed. For the first time, I had performed in front of a professional who had no reason to lie to me or flatter me or skip telling me the truth because they only had 3 hours of my life with me, and he had been honest. I had an honest, informed opinion on my singing ability for the first time in my life, which was something that I had really wanted for a really long time, and unfortunately it wasn't a positive opinion. I was annoyed with every single person prior to this moment who had told me that I sang well or that I sounded good. I was humiliated in retrospect for every single time I had performed in front of people, knowing the truth now, that it hadn't been good, and realizing that anyone who said otherwise had been humoring me. I hated being humored. I mean, honestly, let me just switch that to the present tense, because it is still true. I hate being humored. I wasn't upset with Mr. Chair for telling me the truth. I was actually really grateful to him. I was upset that no one had ever told me the truth before that moment. Though if they had, maybe I wouldn't have dared to audition in the first place. maybe being a musical theater major would have felt ridiculous and out of reach. The one thing that did upset me, directly related to Mr. Chair or the way that he presented the information, was the emphasis that he put on the sophomore recital as a marker of whether or not I'd get to continue in the program. I was stressed out already months before I would even enter the halls for my first class, because from what he had said, I thought there was a very big possibility that I would get through 2 years of extremely expensive college courses, only to be told that I hadn't made enough progress and was being given the boot. What then? Would I be kicked out of college as a whole? Would 2 years of tuition just be down the drain? Would I be forced to change my major? Would I then have to extend my time at college beyond 4 years in order to get in all of the classes that I need for a new major? He had not given me very much information on what exactly this sophomore assessment meant, nor had I asked, pretty understandably, because at this point in the meeting, I was actively fighting back tears. If I look on the verge of tears right now, it's just because my contacts are terrible. It was really only by my sophomore year that I found out that pretty much no one ever failed their sophomore assessment. Like, if their recital advisor thought that they would maybe fail, they would just reschedule their recital for later on so that they had more time to practice. And basically, as long as you memorized all the words to your songs and showed up, you'd pass. Would have been great to know that way earlier. But here we go. It's freshman year, I'm a musical theater major, and I'm going to college, and I can't afford it, but we're doing it anyway. I entered those hallowed halls with the words of Mr. Chair ringing in my ears, and honestly, I think it was kind of a good thing, or at least it wasn't all bad. I went to a fairly small private university in Arkansas. Why? That's a whole other story. Let's just say that I was young, I was extremely uninformed, and I was on my own with this decision. The bulk of my fellow students came from small towns in Arkansas, some from Texas or Oklahoma. The vast majority of the freshman musical theater majors had gone to public school and had taken part in choir, orchestra, band, and/or drama. Many of them were the stars of their small-town high school theater, and they brought that energy with them to college. Meanwhile, I had never been in a play or a musical. The only one that I ever auditioned for rejected me, remember? I had 12 years of ballet classes under my belt, but I had no official experience in singing or acting, and I had it on good authority that I was not very skilled in at least one of those areas. I came into college knowing that I was on the bottom of the heap. If someone wanted to rank the singing ability, which, let's be real, was the top priority of the triple threat lineup at this specific university, of all the musical theater students, or even just the musical theater freshmen, I knew that I would rank the lowest. And because of that very practical, realistic knowledge, which by this point I had just come to terms with, I did not enter college with big performance dreams. I did not expect to get cast in anything, ever. At least not in anything that involved singing, which, like, what luck for me, turns out the very first show they were doing my freshman year was a musical. So within 2 days of arriving on campus, before even attending a class, I had the pleasure of doing another singing audition, just to, solidify that low ranking. I remember walking across campus to classes with the other freshman students that first semester, and they were all so bubbly and full of hope and ready to perform, and they would sing loudly as a group, all trying to outperform each other, just like I had once sung with my sisters as we walked around Walmart, just completely carefree. I did not sing with them. In fact, for the next 4 years, I sang as little as possible. I stopped singing for fun, I stopped randomly bursting into song, I stopped badly belting out The Wizard and I in the shower. When you are in an educational program centered around your vocal ability, every bit of singing becomes either practice or performance. It stops being fun or relaxing or energizing or cathartic, and it becomes work. At least it did for me. I had a great voice teacher. Before you arrive freshman year, they let you select your top 3 preferred teachers out of a group. And of course, I had no idea who any of these people were. You were just given like their photo and a little bio. All I knew for sure is that I did not want to take voice lessons from Mr. Chair or his wife, let's call her Mrs. Chair, who was also a voice teacher there. I was just very intimidated by both of them. I also hadn't yet realized at this point in my life that I interacted better with men than with women, which is like a whole other thing. We shan't get into that right now. But basically, I just selected the 3 remaining female voice teachers because I was like, ooh, men, scary. Again, I had had very little human interaction up to that point in my life. They ended up assigning me to a new voice teacher who hadn't even been on the list, which at the time felt like further confirmation of my low singing status. Like, they didn't just give him all the worst students because he was new. There were some absolutely incredible singers in his studio, but I do feel like a few of us that no one else wanted kind of got dumped on him since it was his first year. And I'm so grateful, because not only was he a great voice teacher, who, by the way, could sing higher than me, he was an amazing countertenor, I think it's called. But also we just like got along. I just liked him as a human. One of the first things that we discovered together about my voice was that I had never once in my life ever used my chest voice. I mean, considering I had to ask in my first lesson, what is chest voice? Yeah, pretty safe to assume I had never access to that. He had so many tricks over those 4 years to try to get me to loosen up, to be loud, to be okay with sounding bad, and I did not make it easy for him. I was so introverted, so quiet, so terrified of sounding bad, but I could memorize lyrics super fast. When it came time for juries at the end of each semester, which is where 3 other voice teachers judge you so that you can get a grade on the class that is college voice lessons, he was always like, I'm not worried about you because you know your music. Yeah, I did. So of course, I passed my sophomore recital assessment and was allowed to continue as a musical theater major for the next 2 years. Hi! Puppy break. What you up to? It was not until second semester of junior year, when I finally got a car, that I sang full out for the first time. Not in my voice lessons, not on stage, not even in the shower. None of those places were private enough. The car is my ultimate sing ugly zone. But it still wasn't really fun or enjoyable for me anymore because I had several years of voice lessons behind me now. I couldn't sing without thinking about lifting my soft palate and enunciating my consonants and getting into that chest voice. Even though I was willing to scream belt Circle of Life again in those fully alone moments in the middle of a highway, every bit of singing felt like a lesson to me. Actually, there were several times in those last few semesters when I almost let my voice teacher in on the secret that the loudness and the ugly chest voice that he was constantly trying to get out of me were happening in the car to the Lion King Broadway soundtrack. But I never quite got there. He knew, I think he really knew that I just needed to belt out a song and not care about how I sounded. He gave me this rendition of a song from Godspell that someone had recently performed in a very loose gospel kind of just do what you want way. That's what he was trying to do. He was trying to get me to just loosen up and sing. But yeah, I never really got there. I performed my senior recital. I knew all the lyrics. I passed. I was a much better singer 4 years later than I had been at that very first nerve-wracking audition. I mean, I could access my chest voice now. That was visible growth, audible growth. But I still graduated from the musical theater program in the lowest 5%, vocally speaking. Or I guess I should say the lowest 20% because only 5 of us graduated from the musical theater department that year. But the other 4 were vastly better singers than me. And this is me ranking me. This wasn't a thing that they did. They didn't rank us according to our vocal abilities. Longer puppy break. Yeah, are we freaking out? Did the UPS man arrive and you cannot go bark at him? Gasp. Hi. What's up? That's a very big yawn. Oh yeah, now you wanna come here? Hi. Hello, stinky breath. Come here. Oh, good boy. Hello. Oh, this is happening now. Can you do a sit with your booty? That's a good boy. Right? Oh, there we go. No, you're gonna go? Okay, bye. But that was okay because I got way more out of that degree than just becoming a better singer. I came in freshman year knowing that I probably wouldn't get to perform very much, and I definitely would never be playing the lead in the spring musicale. And that allowed me to immediately open my eyes to all of the other options, all of the other areas of theater. I didn't perform very much. In fact, senior year, I convinced the department to let me out of auditioning for the entire year, even though auditioning for every single show was technically a requirement for keeping my scholarship. Instead, I did wardrobe and costume design, hair, makeup, wig, and prosthetic design, lighting design, stage management, and even directing. I got a really early start on the backup jobs because I came in not expecting to get cast, not expecting to spend much time on stage. And it turns out I loved being backstage. I loved designing. I loved directing. So I've always been really grateful to Mr. Chair for being so bluntly honest with me. I mean, I was even grateful to him back then, right after the audition, because I wanted honesty. I didn't want to think that I was good at something that I actually wasn't very good at. I did not want to be humored. But it was simultaneously really sad that I lost something that had been such an integral part of the first 18 years of my life. Losing the joy of singing for fun without caring how you sound or what people think or if your soft palate is fully lifted was like losing a part of my personality. And it took years, quite literally years and years and years after graduating with a degree in musical theater for me to start singing again like I had in my childhood. Actually, if we're being fully honest, I'm not totally recovered from it. It was almost a decade before I started singing around the house again, not just in the privacy of my car. It's only in the last couple years that I've stopped caring as much how I sound when I sing. And it's only very, very recently that I sang in front of other people again. I feel like that can be the experience with a variety of interests though, you know? Like there are two main responses to delving in and learning more about something and trying to get better at it. The first being that your love of that thing expands the more that you know about it, and the second being that your love of that thing shrinks as you discover its inner workings. Theater was the first for me, and singing was the latter. I think the biggest reason I've started loving singing again is that I've accepted that I don't have to be good at it. I have no reason to be a good singer, but I'd love to love singing. Helicopter, helicopter. Swept away by the world of theater, particularly music theater. You got very close there. Your camera talking, You're gonna have fun with that. Must be the season of the helicopters. 4 years ago at that nerve-wracking? Let's go to the mall. It's like March right now. Helicopters can go die in a hole. Now I'm dying. Despite 50,000 helicopters doing their best to stop me, we have made it to the end. If I was gonna make a Dr. Doofenshmirtz-inator, it would be a helicopter away-inator.